Howdy, 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 and welcome to the SnortCast. My name is Nguyen. I am the creator and I am a snorter. And thank you so much for joining me every single week for this show. This show interviews funny people from all around the world, talking about their funny, how they got into their funny, and how you can use comedy in your work. And before we start, I would like to know where you are snorting from. It's really important for me to know where is this community snorting, is it whether from LinkedIn or Facebook. We are streaming live, and it's always great to have myself on edge and my colleagues on edge as well. And if you haven't noticed, in the last couple of shows, I have dropped out of my own show, which has been hilarious, but also frightening at the same time. So please let me know if you're watching the show. Hashtag live, hashtag replay if you are watching the SnortCast, and tell us where you are watching from. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and pay my respects to the elders past and present. There's a lot going on in this world right now, and there has been devastation in the community, and I honour and reminded that sovereignty has never been ceded. So if you are part of the SnortCast and you want to know more about us, we are on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, hashtag the SnortCast or at the SnortCast. You can watch all the interviews on YouTube and Facebook live right now. And also, if you would like to be a Patreon supporter of the SnortCast and keep me doing this every single week, all you have to do is click on the link and you can check out how you can support me in keeping the arts alive. And as a reminder, tell me where you are watching from, and I would love to hear from you. And apparently I am still choppy, so just give me a second. I'm going to hopefully that is working better. And I'm just going to remove that one. Okay. Working better and see how we go, but please let me know if the internet is playing up. It always does. So I'm really excited to bring on my guests. I saw her work recently in June when we had the opportunity to perform live, and she's a comedian. And this is quoted, "When I'm not on stage, I sell my infamous something trash, but I cycle." I need to find out what that part is. She's been doing stand-up since 2017 when she did Raw Comedy and reached the Victorian State finals. She also recently started a podcast during a pandemic called she will let me know if I'm getting it wrong or right. And I'm really excited to show her your work. Let's check her out. Before I bring her on, just give me a second. Oh, I just love my tech is amazing. It always keeps me on edge, peeps. All right, so let's check out her work.
I sometimes get compliments, and up until recently, I never knew how to respond. Sometimes people would say something like, "Oh my God, I really love your hair. I love I had your hair." And I finally came up with a response, because usually people who compliment me on my hair are white. And my new response is, "Oh my God, thank you. I wish I had your credit rating." This is actually a joke because my credit rating is very good. I have a credit rating of 840. It's considered excellent. So even though I'm not white, my spending habits are.
And please welcome Aurelia St Clair.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the show. Yay. Can you tell us who you are in 4 sentences?
I am a Melbournian who loves to go out to live gigs. So that's one sentence. And I really like reading and writing funny stuff and making people laugh.
Great. And if you had to write a memoir of your life, what would be the title of that book be called?
Wow, that is such a hard question. I wanted to be something really like kind of funny, and I think if I wrote a memoir about my life so far, a lot of it would be maybe about my mom. So I would call it Mother, but spelled Mutha.
Oh, beautiful. And what did she? Would I say that she inspires you to do what you do, or has been a part? Has she been inspiration for your content?
Yeah, so I think I try to get inspiration from all kinds of different people that are sort of in my life, like even my housemates and my close friends. But my mum definitely was someone who
Wow.
loved to tell funny stories. And growing up, I just would love hearing like little gossipy, funny stories. And I think that has just stuck with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And talking about content and stories, what was the first memory of comedy in your life? Was it as a child, or like when did it come into your life as comedy?
There was probably Chappelle Show when I was maybe 16. Yeah, so just Dave Chappelle was kind of my intro to comedy. Um, and then sort of Seinfeld and just like the old classic ones. And then Ali Wong and Tiffany Haddish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tiffany Haddish is amazing. But is there like a moment that you remember that you realized that you were funny?
Yeah, I used to write comics when I was in school. And I would give them to people and
Oh
they would
really?
read them and laugh and be like, when are you writing the next one? Yeah.
What kind of comics? Like what were they like what kind of comics were they?
They were like situations that kind of happened but exaggerated. And like just
Oh
little
wow,
funny
that's
like
great.
questionnaires and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I remember reading comics as a child, but I feel yeah, that's kind of disappeared from my life. And with comics, did you draw the pictures as well?
Yeah, but I like drew them really badly on purpose, and that was kind of like the thing.
I love it. And before you just talked about who inspires your comedy, like Dave Chappelle, Tiffany Haddish. What's the reason for the inspiration for your comedy?
I just think they're both comedians who are very true to themselves and who talk about um, not only social commentary but also personal things. Um, and that's why they inspire me.
Yeah. And can I ask, what is your cultural background? Because I'm Vietnamese Australian.
I'm German Cameroonian.
Cool. And I guess, like, for me, comedy in Vietnam, because I'm born Australian, comedy isn't big in Vietnam, and I always have to bring my audience out to come watch the show. What has been your audience that's been watching your work? Has it been like a diverse or a particular audience?
I think it's been quite like pretty diverse. I think it's a lot of women of color, which I love. That's like my target
Mm,
audience. Um, and then men of color as well. And um, it's kind of a mix, but I think those are, I guess, my favorite people to perform to. People that can sort of
yeah,
relate to me a bit more, because I definitely find that I get more laughs um, with like a crowd that can relate more to me, and I can relate more to them, and I can interact with the audience really nicely. Um, so yeah, I
yeah,
find that when I do my own shows, that's probably my audience.
yeah. And just talking about topics that you talk on in your content, I I tend to always go back to my roots of talking about my mum. And I spoke to Joy Bar on Monday, and I loved her sketch about penguins. I don't know if you've seen her penguin sketch.
hmm
What kind of content are you into making?
I like making things that are like provocative and cheeky, and that
Yeah,
question the status quo
yeah.
and uplift
What?
um,
Who,
people.
yeah, with the status quo. Who is that status quo?
um, that is a good question because I guess every person sees something else as the status quo. Personally, I think it's
Mm,
um, maybe someone who's not as open-minded, someone who,
yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
doesn't
and
really
like
things as much.
mm, yeah. Yeah, when we came on before, and I'm just acknowledging also that the internet is horrific on my end for the first time this week, and so we are really trying to have a proper conversation. um, but yeah, from like for the last couple of days for me, it's my what I've been, like, very similar to you, has been the status quo of white males, like challenging that, and really going, what, just questioning where I fit in this kind of world. Um, ha- and I guess I want to go to that next question, like, you were awarded a grant to kickstart, to really nurture your career. You got money to perform at the comedy festival, but it got cancelled. How have you had to get some joy during this ass time called a pandemic, and just you know gotten some joy in your life?
I guess I've been doing a lot of sort of forward planning because I do think there is life after the pandemic. So I was already thinking about um, like goals I could set for the next year that were realistic and like easy to reach. Like I'd set myself a goal to run a certain amount of kilometers in a month, and then I met that goal, and that made me really feel happy and accomplished, even though it wasn't a lot, and it was something I could do during the quarantine without like breaking the law or endangering myself or anything like that.
Great. So how many kilometers are you running at the moment?
Doing 50 a month.
What? That's amazing. That
Just
would be
10
keeping you
times
fit.
a
I've uh, that's really good. So, but I'm happy. I'm dancing. I've got my booty, and I'm happy. So it's all good. It's all good. If you have a question, please pop it in the comments, and we'll have Q&A and to ask more questions. But I really want to talk to you about, you know, we talked about, well, before we came on, we talked about diversity in comedy. Being a woman of colour, a POC, is there more that we can do with comedy here in Australia?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I feel like there's a lot of um, people who might just be so used to how comedy used to be like 10 years ago when they started, where it was just a lot of men and a lot of them being um, briefly like just white men. But it was like maybe when they started ages ago, and
Mm.
it's really changed, and especially with places like the Comics Lounge that has recently been like criticized because of how their lineups are just not diverse. And every time that happens, they just
Mm.
deny it. But it's such a big like club here in Melbourne that when I tell people that I do comedy, I swear that 8 times out of 10 they ask me if I perform at a Comics Lounge, and I have to say no because that place is not diverse towards people like me. But that's what everyone
Mm.
like who doesn't really know much about comedy in Melbourne thinks the pinnacle of comedy is, and I think that's problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, so what do we do? Because you and I are both women of color. We're women, but also, women of color. What do we do? Do we just be like, just try to kick ass in our comedy, or do we pave a way and like fight everyone? Like, what would be your tip in, getting us on more lineups? Because right now our ratio of diversity in lineup is quite minimal. Is there a way for us to challenge this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, um, you can set up your own room. You can do so many things. You can do a show in an independent festival, and I think a lot of things are changing. So there are positives with
Mm.
people being more aware towards diversity issues because of things like the Black Lives Matter movement. So I think there is definitely progress happening. But a lot of the time, I think it's important if you do comedy or any art where you are a minority to just think that you're actually not doing this for the status quo. Your art isn't for like cis white dudes. That's not your target audience.
Mm.
And instead of trying
Yes.
to please someone who like wouldn't really fit into what you want to achieve anyways, try connecting to the people you love, and then you can find like a way to make diversity in comedy a positive experience for yourself.
Yeah, like it's great. And um, we've got people watching the show from Greece. Thank you for joining. India, Nepal. We've got from Colombia, South America. Thank you for joining. If you have a question, we'll be answering it, and we've all got Melbourne in the room too. Thanks, Karen Lee, for joining the show. Um, you like you decided to do raw comedy in 2017. how did you was that kind of like the first time you started doing comedy, or yeah, what was the inspiration to do raw comedy?
Yeah, so a friend had told me that it was a thing, and I'd known that in 2016 as well, but I just hadn't really written any material or performed at all. And then I entered in 2017 and was like, oh, well, now I have to do some work. And I started doing open mics, and that was definitely like a good preparation, because you maybe don't want your very first time doing comedy to be in front of a really large audience, that's not going to be critical, but I think it's always worse when you have a large audience that's quiet. So I run my like little
Mm.
jokes in like a little audience, and if they laugh, then um, it'll work in a big audience as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're doing raw and you have like 200 people there, then definitely make sure that you've said those words out loud to another person at least once.
What was the experience like to be, you were a Victorian finalist as well?
Yeah,
That's a great honor. Like, yeah, how did you feel?
it felt really, really nice. It was such a nice, I guess, cohort. Like so many of those people I still see around, and I really like. Um, like Zach Dyer was in, I think, that year or the year before, or just the people who are performing I still see around, and I can like think back to when I first met them, and that's really nice.
That's
Yeah,
great.
so it's definitely
And
a fond
before we go
memory.
to yeah, before we go to the Q&A, most of the people that are watching this show are from LinkedIn. What would be your tip for someone who wanted to use comedy in their work? What would be a tip that you would advise them?
Um, I think the like nicest comedy or the things I do to make people at my work laugh are just being kind of nice to them, because it could be a workplace where a crude joke could be taken the wrong way. So you want to keep your jokes PG and friendly. Um, I love making up little um, emoji for my coworkers in Slack. And I think that can be a nice way to incorporate some subtle comedy. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah.
that's great. It's great. Well, I think it's important to be nice because that's how they'll buy tickets to see your work. Really,
Exactly.
you don't want to trash them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so do you? So is comedy your side hustle, or so you've got another job that funds this lifestyle?
Yes, I have a whole job that funds my extravagant lifestyle of going to Kmart once a month. Um, I work as a customer success advocate at Square.
Okay, great. And then at nighttime you do your side
Yeah,
hustle.
that's right. So I finish work at
Yeah,
5 and then go home for a bit and then go out to a gig like 3 or 4 nights a week.
yeah. No, no. Well, yeah. I think that's what people don't realize about our work is that it's you can't really live on a stand-up career unless you're on TV or radio. So yeah, you've got to balance the life and the dream life to make it happen.
Yeah.
We've got a question from the audience, which is, well, Karen, I think you might have missed it, but Karen's asking, who inspires you as a comedian?
Um,
And you spoke about Tiffany Hardish. Why Tiffany Hardish?
So Tiffany has a way of being really like candid with the things she talks about her upbringing, which was like partly in the foster care system, and it was really hard. But she talks about it in such a like funny and relatable way that you really get to know her and know more about like how that system works, but still walk away really laughing a lot.
Yeah. And you probably seen Jimmy Kimmel about her hanging out with the Smith family, and they went crocodile. They went on a crocodile tour, and the way that she told that story was so brilliant. Like she was just popping. She was alive in it with her Groupons, and then she ended up being an ambassador for Groupons.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that was great.
I also love Groupon, so that's why she inspires me.
Yeah.
It helps me save.
We've got Yanis from Greece asking, Aurelia, do you think that the lifestyle of a top-notch comedian has to be extravagant?
I don't think so, because I think
It's
a
an
lot of
interesting.
comedy has a way of being more relatable if you come from a lifestyle that's more normal. I don't think I'd want to see someone talk about their 8 fancy cars and 2 vacation houses, because I would just be like, why are you doing this to me? I don't have any of those things. That's making me so sad. You know, like I have to watch someone kind of talk about how they got a budget flight and they missed it and they couldn't afford to rebook it, and that's why they didn't have a vacation. Because that would happen to me.
Yeah. That has it. And before we go, one more question. What you with our restrictions have just lifted? What are you hoping to do in the next 6 months?
I'm hoping to do my solo show that I was going to do in this year's festival. And I'm hoping to eat at a restaurant. Yeah, that's it.
Food and comedy.
Yeah.
And what is the title of your solo show?
So it was called Woke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and do you think you'll bring that same show back in 2021?
I think there might be changes, and I'll give it a different name.
Yeah.
And some of the core things will still be there because a lot of people haven't seen those jokes yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see it. My show at the Comedy Festival was called Chasing Keanu Reeves. So I'm going to bring that show back into 2021, but I'm going to change it too. But yeah, definitely being woke in this time in our lives is very relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining the show, and I apologize for the internet. You've done so well. If you are joining the show, please check out her work. Sorry.
I just said thank you so much for having me.
It's an awful day for the internet. Oh, thank you. If you are joining the show, I apologize for the internet. We'll figure it out for next time, and we'll see you all soon in real life for comedy. Thanks for joining. Bye.